Hollywood and from all over the world to entertain you on a giant screen with the few colorful motion pictures you've been hearing about and reading
It's
about.
showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
We're delighted to have you with us. The Drive-In Theater.
You'll find something to please you to add to your evening's enjoyment.
Is pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
Hello, greetings, friends. Welcome to the Drive-In Speakerbox. It is almost Halloween.
Almost.
It is
pretty close.
The week of Halloween. And if you are tuning into the live stream of the show online where we do the video feed, check it out. We have spookified the set. We're in costume. We're getting super excited about Halloween. And maybe you can, if you're only listening to the podcast, you can probably hear the fact that I have fangs in my mouth. So at least
double fangs.
Yeah, the Lost Boy double fangs. Yeah. See, I'm. What are you? We'll talk about our costumes really quick.
Oh man, I'm the guy who tried to be a Ghostbuster before they hired Ernie Hudson and failed.
And it just didn't pass.
Or I'm the ghost of a murdered franchise.
Whoa.
How about that?
How
about that? I even got my little Slimer.
Got a little Slimer pin.
Yeah.
And you brought, what is that, Egon and
I got
Venkman up there.
Egon out of like little pillow pack mysteries.
Yeah.
So that worked out. I wish I would have got Ecto 1, but
Those little like mystery. I've been trying to get all the Universal Monster ones. You'll see I've got them right back here. I'm kind of pointing to them if you're looking at the live feed.
like these little pillow pack.
And I hate it, but I also love it. It's because you want to collect them all, and they know you do. And you go to the store, and you're like, well, I guess I have to buy the whole freaking box, and I'm going to buy 6 of the same fucking thing because I want to get the one that I want. And it's such a scam, but they know it, and they got us.
Oh, yeah, dude. I buy all those Batman black and white pillow packs, and I probably have 20 copies of at least one of them.
If we did a podcast all about pillow packs, could it be called Pillow Talk?
Oh, TM.
There it is.
Speakerbox.
But if you don't know what
Coming
I am
soon.
yet, got my Max's Video Store t-shirt, Santa Carla, California, my custom jacket that I made. I am, of course, a Lost Boy. I got cut my hair just for the occasion.
Damn.
Yeah.
I should have got a Thud Butt costume. How cool would that have been? Like to be like
we would both be Lost Boys.
Yeah,
that would have been super. Or Pockets.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
Yeah, all you need is like the one with the dirtied up like just like suit coat.
Oh yeah, the like the Wall Street Kid.
Yeah, the Wall Street Kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm my own version of a member of the Lost Boys. You know,
I could have been Toodles.
You could see you had all of these options. We could have both been Lost Boys.
Well, yeah.
But you know, we'll never grow old and we'll never die, but we must feed. And anyway, so welcome to the show. I'm your host, the Boom Operator.
I'm the Grip.
And we're going to be talking about movies like we always do. We got the spookiness here in the show. One of the first things I want to talk about, since it is spooky season, Shudder. I have a subscription to Shudder that I got through the month of October. And I've been really enjoying it this month because I always watch lots of scary movies in the month of October. But one of my favorite horror hosts, Joe Bob Briggs, I wish I had his autographed hat here with me, but it's at my house. Not only is he going to be in Tulsa next month, November 9th, I believe, and Oklahoma City, which is really close to where we are. But he is on Shudder right now. He is doing a new show called The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, and they just gave away there's a 14-day free trial code that we posted over on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Drive-In Speakerbox, or I'll just give it to you right now. It's JBB Shudder, all caps, Joe Bob Briggs, JBB Shudder. You can get a 14-day free trial of Shudder, and you can enjoy this last week of Halloween, getting in on all that Shudder action. You know what?
Is it all just like super crazy, scary stuff, like traditional, or do you get some like
The new Creep Show series is on Shudder right now. And there's some good content,
But
definitely some good October content.
Do you get fun, goofy, like horror stuff like I like Critters or...
Yeah. It's a pretty good spread. 14-day free trial. What you gonna lose, my man?
You can see what's out there. Huh?
You can check it out. So getting that out there in the news. I don't want to cover a whole lot of news this week because we do have a lot of movies to talk about, and I want to kind of recommend a couple of spooky movies for you that you can enjoy this week because Friday, it's Christmas. So Christmas comes. I've already seen Christmas starting to sprout like a weed in a driveway that you just can't get rid of.
Looking at you, Hobby Lobby.
They're all year round these days, but it grows and festers like a moldy sandwich that you thought you threw away, but it's just been in the back of the fridge, just becoming more and more ominous. But yeah, it's always there in the corner. But then around October 28th, it just starts to sprout and grow.
What? Who are you people that put up Christmas trees before Thanksgiving?
Monsters. They're all monsters. But you have a very limited amount of time to just truly embrace your spookiness, and the time is now. And there's a lot of good stuff that you can check out. If you've never seen it, I'm going to be talking about a few. Actually, one of the more recent ones that just left theaters but is now on VOD, you can check out the Ready or Not, which I thought was pretty underrated. Didn't get a lot of traction in the theater, but was pretty fun and a pretty new spin on kind of an old cliche, a trapped in the house.
Murderous Milton Bradley.
Yeah, Milton Murders. But we're going to get into that. One little bit of news that are both pretty spooky newses. Did you hear about this? And of course, this is Hocus Pocus has been coming back into vogue a lot in the past couple of years because 90s stuff is coming really back into vogue. Are You Afraid of the Dark situations.
Now that the Halloween store carries licensed items rather than just like the knockoff stuff, there was so much Hocus Pocus stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Instead of being like abracadabra witch sisters, they can just be like, yo, here's some licensed Hocus Pocus
straight up
stuff.
Sanderson sisters. Mm-hmm. And you know what, too? I've always been like, what would be a great Halloween costume? Billy Butcherson. Because that would be sick.
Well, at the Halloween store, they had Billy Butcherson pop-up ground
and
deal.
Mask and costumes and decorations. And it turns out I'm not the only one that thought that Billy was the coolest part of that whole movie.
He was, man. And when he got his mouth unwrapped at the end, he was like,
wench.
Yeah, you wench. I've been waiting 100 years to say that. Or 300 years or something. It went a long time to tell her off. Yeah, Bette Midler. Go see a dentist, and
you can get those the
big
Sanderson teeth gap.
Yeah. And I will say this. I will say about Hocus Pocus that is probably the only movie in existence where I looked at Sarah Jessica Parker and I was like, yo, she's kind of cute. Because everything else, I'm like, I don't understand the appeal. But in Hocus Pocus, I've been like, yeah, all right. I got a broom you can fly.
Wow. Wow.
Anyway, but bringing up Hocus Pocus.
Too bad if you lit the candle, it'd bring him back.
Hey, man. We'll light the candle at both ends. Give me a little Beetlejuice, yeah. Come on, Sanderson sisters. Hey, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she was cute in that movie. But then something happened. I think it was Sex in the City happened. And then I think her chin got way bigger somehow. Or she was just in Sex in the City and I couldn't see her the same way anymore. But she was the sexy Sanderson. That was her role. But anyway, according to Collider this week, Workaholics writer-producer Jen D'Angelo has been tasked with writing Hocus Pocus 2, which would follow up bringing the original 1993 cast back.
How they killed the Sanderson sisters.
They're witches, dude.
They got turned to dust, bro.
But they're magic, homie. They are still in there.
But it defeats the whole purpose of that movie.
It does, especially since what was the cat's name?
Binks.
Yeah, Binks. He straight up died. He went to heaven.
Straight up, though, fun fact about the Sanderson sisters, now that all of the 3 of those actresses are older, at the beginning of the movie, they were really old, and then they sucked the soul out of Binks' little sister.
Selves.
It can be a prequel, and they can be older, and it can make sense in the movie.
That's the move. That's the move, Disney
and it
Plus.
Would be cool. They could set it in their Pirates of the Caribbean nonsense bullcrap world, and they can have Sanderson sisters be old, and it makes sense.
A prequel where
How
they're
about that?
older than they were in the sequel. I like it.
Yeah, because it makes sense for that story.
See, why are we not writing
You're
this?
welcome.
Why aren't we? I mean, I'm telling you, our production company, Academy Award nominated films, needs to happen. We need to get on board with this. But they're right now, according to what's been released, even though Disney Plus is saying it's going to come, or Disney's saying it's coming to Disney Plus, there is no confirm that the Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy are signed up to reprise their roles. But Disney is saying that they plan on getting them in some capacity. So we will see. We will see.
Fun fact there, a lot of people, when they watch Hocus Pocus, they're like, oh, where do I know the one Sanderson sister who's not Bette Midler or Sarah Jessica Parker from?
Yeah.
She's Peggy Hill.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And other fun news, not necessarily spooky, but kind of Halloween-y because it's monsters and space creatures. But they are getting they're bringing an old idea back to life. But the Jim Henson Company, again teaming up with Disney because Jim Henson and them are in bed, are coming up with a show called Earth to Ned, which is going to be a very, very similar to kind of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. It's a talk show focused on sort of this weird alien-inspired host with, that's obsessed with human pop culture, and he brings in different guests, and he has, kind of a Fraggle Rockian feel to it, where they do sort of a Space Ghost. They bring in live, current people. I think that this sounds cool if they will allow it to be. I think if they give it the same free range that they tried to give the Muppet Show when the Muppet went on NBC, and it was just called Muppets. I think this show could be good. They need to make this geared towards adults, which Space Coast Ghost was, and I think a lot more content is pew, 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 pew. I think it's going that direction, and I think now more than ever we are seeing that content that may look like it's just for kids can be aimed at adults, and adults are a lot better about being okay with it.
We have a show. Why is it that you're not Space Ghost? I'm Moltar. And the producer is Brack. Why is that?
We're already here. We already have a Brack over there.
Oh, no. Forget that. You could be Space Ghost. I could be Zorak.
Oh, you're Zorak.
He could be Moltar.
Yeah.
Because Moltar runs the cameras and stuff.
You're definitely a Zorak.
No, dude, I'm definitely Moltar. But
no, you're a Zorak.
Nah, I'm Moltar.
Because you're always like, man. Nah, you're a Zorak.
I'm either Brack or Moltar for sure.
Zorak was the Mantis one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the stupid one?
Brack.
Was it Brack?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Brack was the dumb one.
Because he got his own show afterwards.
Moltar was the one that was just like, Moltar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Brack show. I remember the Brack show. He's like, hey, Space Ghost or whatever. Yeah.
Pretty close.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, we're basically there already.
Wait until Halloween to think of all these great Halloween ideas.
Jeez, we're so stupid. But Jim Henson Co., I think they're getting a lot of money thrown at them now after the success of the Dark Crystal reboot that they have done. And, I'm happy to see the Jim Henson Company doing more stuff.
Better than that extremely adult-oriented whodunit detective movie that...
masturbation
that his
correlation
son made.
detection agency or whatever it was. what was that movie called?
I don't remember, but
because we were both. I was excited about it.
Yeah,
and then it came out, and you saw it, and it
I
was
reviewed it on the show.
Oh, it was terrible.
It was very bad.
Man, what man? I've
It was
struck it from my mind.
It was a Melissa McCarthy
It
vehicle,
was.
just like the murdered Ghostbusters.
Melissa McCarthy.
Ghostbusters, just like Ghost, is rising up from the dead, huh?
I
Hopefully it'll be
know.
good.
Rivers and seas boiling. 20 years of darkness. What is it? Something and something. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria.
Yeah.
And yes, sir, this man has no dick. One of the best lines of Ghostbusters. 35th anniversary this year. Isn't that nuts? And speaking of Ghostbusters, we just got off the tail of the Beatbox Halloween dance party, which was this weekend. What up? We were all there. What a good time. We did the back patio was all Ghostbusters themed. We had Stay Puff, 15-foot Stay Puff out there. We had a big ghost. We had Slimer. We had a bar that was covered in slime. A bartender dressed as a Ghostbuster. We were selling Twinkies out there, and I made him memorize the Twinkie line where Egon talks about all the built-up ectoplasmic activity or paranormal activity. And it's like, according to my calculations today, it would be over 6,000 pounds and 30 feet long. And then Winston's like, that's a big-ass Twinkie. Anyway, he had the whole spiel down and had a sign that said, ask me about my Twinkie, which seems kind of gross now that I think about it in retrospect. But anyway, it was cool. We had a great time. But we still got a few more days left to Halloween. So before we get super far into things, let's talk about what movies are coming out this weekend, because there are options out there. I know you want to be watching scary movies. I mean, we just last night we were huddled around a fire pit watching the Joe Bob Briggs Halloween special. We watched Halloween 4, and that was the one where you discover that Jamie Lee Curtis was related to the little girl. And then at the end had that crazy, scary twist ending where the little girl like donned the clown suit and murdered her mom. Spoiler alert. I just gave it away if you've never seen it.
Doesn't her like eyes glow or something crazy?
No, she put on the mask just like Michael, and it was like, and it because they hit Michael with the car like a bunch of times, and he like died or whatever, and I guess the evil passed on. But anyway, there's movies coming out in theaters this weekend. If you're not going to be sitting home sipping hot chocolate and watching scary movies, there is a movie that we are definitely going to be seeing in the theaters because
Watch all of them regardless.
Yeah, we have to, and it is Terminator: Dark Fate. It's one of those movies.
Girl Power, the movie.
We're not really expecting it to be awesome, but we have to watch it because it's Terminator.
I'm expecting Schwarzenegger to be awesome.
Well, because he's Schwarzenegger. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes I got to bite my tongue on things that I say on the show, even though we're now a podcast and the FCC does not listen to me. But yeah, there it is. It's coming out in theaters this weekend. Early reviews were coming out saying it's good, but now as more people are seeing it, the meta score is coming down a little bit. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I think numerical rating factors are complete and utter bullshit, and Rotten Tomatoes is garbage. So if you use those as a metric and don't actually see things for yourself and use your own set of eyes and brain to make your decisions, then you are also an idiot. But just we're going to go see it. We're going to go check it out, and we're going to talk to you about it. The Drive-In Speakerbox was never meant to tell you what to see and tell you what not to see. We will recommend movies for you to see, but we'll never tell you not to see a movie. Like, if you want to go watch the Emoji Movie, go watch the Emoji Movie. I mean, he's been trying to get his ass in to see the Hustle.
I haven't.
So long, but he just doesn't have the time. And I'm not going to stop him. I'm not going to tell him no.
How did this become a thing?
It just did. But coming in the comments, what do we got going in the comments? From Johnny Dalton, he says, I saw the preview for Terminator Dark Fate, and I love how Linda Hamilton shannon the other films by saying this is a true sequel. It's kind of insulting to the fans and makers of the other films. They all had good stuff at them. He saw T2 twice at Universal.
You know what? I've liked all of the Terminator movies in some capacity. I think...
What's the one that had it had like the Johnny Five robot in it, and then the redheaded kid from like Idle Hands or whatever. What was the one that was after part 3?
The one in the future with Christian Bale.
Salvation.
I didn't like that one.
Salvation's the hardest one to watch just because it has old R.I.P. Guy from Star Trek. The guy that played Chekhov from Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Anton Yelchin.
Yeah, Anton Yelchin. Yeah, you're supposed to buy him as being Kyle Reese, but in all the other movies, he's like, Bean. What's his name? What's his first name? John.
Oh, Sean Bean.
Not Sean Bean. Michael Bean.
Michael Bean.
So it's like it's him, and then it's friggin' crap. Wow, not doing good at movies right now.
Terminator 3, John Connor?
No, well, his dad, man, Kyle Reese. In the other movies, you have him as he played Captain Boomerang. He was the son.
I know who you're talking about.
Die Hard.
I can't think of his name.
Oh man, what's his name?
Anyway, that
people
guy.
hate him in movies. The point is, Kyle Reese is always some like kind of tough guy. Like you buy him as like an action guy, and then all of a sudden he's like a skinny kid that sucks, and you're supposed to buy that as like John Connor's dad.
Yeah,
and it was you had like robots that had nothing better to do but like slam down on 7-Elevens and stuff.
And so was there one between Salvation and Genesis?
No.
That was a show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Sarah Connor Chronicles, I think, happened before Salvation, maybe. Yeah. But it was good. Yeah.
Traveled in time, but.
Well, yeah, there was. I mean, just like anything Terminator, there was time travel in that. But it had Lena Headey as Sarah Connor. That was after she was in 300, and she was just like super badass, like on the planet type lady. And then she was Ma and Dread, and then she became Cersei, and like who on screen?
Unstoppable.
Yeah, who on screen is gonna be able to conquer Lena Headey after she's been Sarah Connor and Cersei?
Oh, here we go. We got a timeline. So 84 is Terminator, and then 95 Terminator 2, and then 2019 Terminator Dark Fate. Okay. So, see, the thing is
Terminator 6.
I really liked Genesis.
Dude, I like Genesis too. And I liked where Genesis was going with...
yeah, would Doc Brown make this work? Yeah. If you're just listening to the podcast, we're pulling up like timeline situations on Google and seeing what other people have tried to make sense of the Terminator timeline. And there are some pretty nice ones here, but there are some pretty like crazy hot scale style whiteboard drawings of making sense of it. And it's one of those things that, the Terminator, I guess we can call it a cinematic universe now because that is a term. I think that one of the reasons it has had such a hard time is because it is trying to retroactively create a cinematic universe in a world where they sort of created essentially the bones of a giant franchise, but never really had any idea of how to continue to drive it before a lot of these other studios figured out how to just really weaponize these film franchises and always make them with the intent of making more. Because almost every single movie now that is like a blockbuster or an action adventure or a sci-fi or a fantasy, it is required for writers to leave it open-ended enough to where they can write something up for a sequel.
Yeah, and I think that was really the problem that Genesis had, other than whatever his name is that none of us can remember right now, is the lead actor who seems to be just a weakness in whatever movie he goes into a lead role. Why can't I remember his name?
Stop thinking about it.
It's like something weird. He always plays like a Russian guy in
the
movies.
more you're thinking about it, the dumber it's going to make us sound.
Yeah, but I think the problem that Genesis had was that they were just trying to tie it into like Skynet.
Sam Worthington.
No, that's the Australian guy that couldn't hold his accent in Salvation. Right. But same. Jai Courtney. Thank you, Johnny. Yeah. Okay. So Jai Courtney, who seems to make things hard for people to watch, and it's they left it open for sequels, but we're worried about trying to tie it in with like modern sensibilities of like having your app on your phone, and that's where the countdown came. But it had some good ideas. Like the guy that helped develop the app was the son of the dude in T2. It had it where Kyle Reese was a little bit more important, which was fun. Arnold aging was a decent concept in how they did it, and helped raise Sarah to protect her because Terminators kept coming after her. I mean, there were things in there that were cool, and I think a lot of people just didn't want to like it, and the fact that it was opened up for sequels and that was its driving mission kind of helped kill it.
Well, poor Terminator. We'll see what happens with we'll see the dark fate that lies with Terminator after it comes out this weekend, because we will be seeing it in. It's just, I don't know. We have to see Terminator. We just have to. But nothing tops Terminator 2. Like, that is the movie.
I don't know. Johnny mentioned the Terminator comic from the 90s. You know what is better than T2? Terminator versus RoboCop.
All these verses. Terminator versus Predator. Terminator versus RoboCop.
Terminator versus RoboCop was super cool.
I don't think I ever read that.
It's awesome.
I mean, who would win? Who won?
Well, I mean, do you want this massive spoiler?
I'm not going to read the comic.
All right, man.
I would assume that RoboCop would win because he's man.
Well, hold on. All right, so anyone that wants to not have a 30-year-old comic book ruined for them, turn your volume down for the next 5 seconds. Go. RoboCop wins.
Of course, because he's part human.
Because he ties himself into Skynet and his brain controls it.
Oh, dope. Singularity for the win. That's how you do it.
The American people win. And you know what? When I saw that comic, the first thing I thought, I'd buy that for $1.
Would you buy that comic for $1?
Yeah.
I'd buy that. I have that RoboCop pinball machine just in that other room right over there. Maybe we'll play it later. But anyway, that's coming out in theaters this week. Also coming out in theaters this week, we've got Harriet. I don't know if you've seen the trailers for this, from director Cassie Lemons. It's starring Cynthia Erivo, Leslie Odom Jr., Joe Allen, and Clark Peters. It's kind of the extraordinary tale of Harriet Tubman's escape from slavery and transformation into one of America's greatest heroes, whose courage, ingenuity, and tenacity freed hundreds of slaves and changed the course of history. So, a lot of us have heard of the Underground Railroad, and of course, Harriet Tubman should be a household name.
She's not.
I mean, household, not meaning like every morning over cereal. You're like, well, Harriet Tubman, but I mean, everybody should know who Harriet Tubman is. Like, they should still teach that in schools.
Do they not?
I don't know. Kids these days are getting insane educations. Like, the more I learn about young people these days, the more terrified I am about getting older. But anyway, the point is, I think I know plenty about that period of history. But what I'm curious to see is I want to go back and because I'm the guy that goes and reads the books and does my research to see, like, are they turning her into too much of an action hero into this? Are they using history and very sensitive history to exploit a demographic to sell tickets to a blockbuster? Because the trailer that I'm seeing, because I want to see this movie. I do. It looks pretty cool. And it's got a pretty solid cast. But I don't remember Harriet Tubman like dual wielding muskets and like kicking doors down and leading armies into battle. And that was all in the trailer. And it's just like, this is the Underground Railroad, and like kicking somebody in the chest.
And there was
like
already
going, plow, plow.
Just in the trailers, there's like historical inaccuracies, so there's anachronisms and things like that. And you know what? If you're going to do a period piece, like,
see, and
aim for some accuracy.
Here's my deal: is if it was Harriet Tubman Vampire Hunter, like the Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie that came out, or like maybe if it was even Harriet
they could have
Tubman.
expanded that universe since it takes place around the same time.
Or even if it was something as insane and dark as Harriet Tubman's slave owner murderer, I'd be like, let's watch that shit, where she's like kicking down plantation doors and being like, eat this, sucker, and like chopping off heads and, burning down like stupid like old Southern Alabama plantations, like, and just like, yeah, that'd be cool. Just like go to the wall with it. But when you're selling it as kind of a period historical piece in a generation that's coming up that believes literally anything that they see on TV and on 160 character clickbait, like, titles without reading the article, that worries me that people are going to start believing this as fact. It's historical fact and instead of historical fiction. And, that's really the only hesitation I have to these things that get so close to historical fact, but then they glamorize it to make it fun and popcorny because it doesn't sell well or test well with audiences. I think that's you either go all in or don't. And I don't know. We'll see what this goes, because the trailer makes it look pretty out there. But I'm very curious to see. It's kind of like the Dolomite film that I haven't had a chance to see. I'm a big Rudy Ray Moore fan. I really want to see this, but I know that it's. I'm curious to see how close to the truth it goes, because Rudy Ray Moore. A lot of people didn't know this. People that lived here. We're like, I just learned that Rudy Ray Moore was from Fort Smith, Arkansas, which is 40 minutes that way. And I'm like, yeah, dude, have you never listened to my Blaxploitation history special every February? Like, because I used to play that music. I used to talk about the history of those films and all the great talent that came from that period. Even though it made some pretty controversial movies, it opened the floodgates to a lot of really important milestones in filmmaking, and open the door for a lot of African American filmmakers to actually be taken seriously in theaters. And so I'm really curious to see the Dolomite film. But anyway, Harriet is coming out in theaters this week. And also a controversial movie coming out into theaters this week is, of course, Arctic Dogs. No, that's not the controversial movie, but it is coming out. I could care less about it. It looks like a low-budget CGI animals doing people things with the voices of Angelica Houston, James Franco, Jeremy Renner, and Alec Baldwin. I'm not quite sure what studio this is from.
It's a big cast.
It's a big cast, but a small studio. I think it even has like Heidi Klum and John Cleese and other voices. But it just looks like a terrible, terrible movie. But the movie I'm talking about is The Irishman, getting released in theaters. And of course, this is from director Martin Scorsese. And if you haven't been on the internet lately, Martin Scorsese has been under fire. It is an incredibly polarizing debate. Martin Scorsese, once heralded as one of the greatest American filmmakers, I never agreed with that, really. I think he got a pity Oscar when The Departed. He won an Academy Award for The Departed, even though I thought that was one of his weaker films, because I think he's at the end of his career. Don't get me started. But he's resurrecting that old guard cast of, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci. They basically, held Joe Pesci at gunpoint to get back into a film. Anna Paquin is in this for whatever reason, because I guess True Blood money's running out. But anyway, Martin Scorsese, shots were fired about Disney's MCU. And a lot of people are not, again, going it back to what I was saying about young people now, not reading the full set of information before they just fly off the handle on the internet and start taking sides and lighting their torches. And it's amazing how much people will put effort into, how much effort these people will put into getting angry and combating something that they've made a decision that they hate, instead of taking the extra effort before they make that decision to hate to go, let me evaluate this. All I got to do is sit here, click an extra thing, and take a few minutes. But they won't take that extra few minutes on the front end, but after they've made that decision, they're going to go sign a campaign, they're going to go out and create a Facebook group, and they're going to spend hours writing hate posts and mobilizing their friends to shut stuff down. Like, it's way less work to just do your homework. But anyway, what I'm getting to is Martin Scorsese. He went on record saying that he didn't feel that the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Disney recipe for making movies, he said that it's killing narrative film, and that he doesn't think that those are necessarily good for narrative film and theaters, and that he feels they're more just like rides and not like films, and people are losing their shit.
The people that make big time money and are crazy famous for their theme parks with roller coasters are more apt to make their movies like thrill rides that you enjoy for a minute and then forget about, and then just be like, oh, remember, it was fun, but don't remember anything
about it. I just remember going, whoa. Yeah, and so the thing is even in his statement, if you read the full statement that this whole thing has come out in, he praises them. He's like, the effects are amazing. They're fun to watch. They're, achievements in technology and special effects. He praises them for all of these things that they're doing right. But he goes, in terms of character development, getting people to feel things and go to the movies and experience narrative film, they're not doing that. And they're also hurting small films from not being able to get theater time, not being able to get screen time, not being able to get audience penetration to go see these movies. Audience penetration. That's the word of the day. And it's bad for filmmakers, but everybody's going, oh, you're just mad because no one's seeing your movies in theaters. And he's like, you're not listening to me. I'm saying that because all of the audiences and the way that Disney is mobilizing this monster of a machine they're making, that is impossible. I mean, unless Martin Scorsese just wanted to direct a Star Wars movie. That's the only, and so The Irishman is, I think because of that sort of controversy, we're getting a larger release of The Irishman, but it's probably not going to be. And that's why none of us have seen the Lighthouse yet. The Lighthouse is quite possibly, from a lot of people's opinion that have seen it, one of the greatest movies that have come out this year. But if I want to see it, I'm going to have to drive 4 hours to go see this movie. And that ain't cool. And it's because of this cinematic universe machine that Disney's putting together.
Yeah, that's a lot of the movies I watch. I go out of the way to watch movies that you're not gonna find all over the place. Like I watched Savages and Sisters Brothers, and I don't know. We were talking about 1800s movies a minute ago, so I guess that's what I'm stuck on there. But things like that you don't see get giant releases. A lot of these Tamil movies, like I'll talk about here in a little while, and it's kind of disheartening when you see a movie like that does do everything that a movie should do. Engages you, makes you feel, makes you think, has characters that you can remember, music that you come out of the theater singing, things like that.
And when you hear it again, you get inspired.
Yeah, and then here in Waltz's Disney, and they're like, well,
hey man,
spectacle.
Sell tickets. Yeah.
And then you're like, okay.
Okay, well, here's my money.
Could you tell me about that movie? And they're like,
in the comments
Captain
section,
America's butt cheeks.
Yeah, and Hulk's penis. In the comments there, this is watching the raw green screen footage is depressing. Yeah, I mean, when you see these Marvel movies behind the scenes, and it's just and they are with wires strapped to them and ping pong balls on their head, and they're just like, it's not immersive, it's just kind of it's video games, really. It's cutscenes, and these filmmakers that are going and making films that are passionate about doing more than just making $1 billion, because let's face it, The Marvel movies don't care about anything other than making $1 billion. That's it. They're not going, oh man, we really want people to feel something from these films. We want to tell this story, and it's important to us to tell this story about these characters because we believe in this, and we think that it's a great story. No, those meetings are like, okay, if it doesn't make $1 billion, we're not going to do this again.
Yeah.
We need to find the one.
Our budget was $146 million. The movie only grossed $220 million opening weekend.
We better never do that again.
A flop.
Yeah, and that's how they measure these things. I mean, look at Solo. I mean,
Wow,
but by measuring standards, we talked about it. It made a ton of money. I think it in the profit, it went over 100 to 200 million in the black. But they were like, well, it didn't make $1 billion, so it was terrible for us, and we don't want to put any more energy into that. Oof.
They should have just not done it because it sucked.
Well, there's that too. The Irishman coming out in theaters this weekend. You can check it out. It's about a mob hitman recalling his possible involvement with the slaying of Jimmy Hoffa. Hoffa? Remember that? Anyway, so that's what's coming out in theaters this week. All right, so it's about that time we need to start talking about the movies that we saw. I saw, what did I see? I saw Black and Blue, and you saw a couple of Hindi movies. So I've been talking a lot. Oh, Tamil movies.
2 Tamil movies.
Tamil movies.
Yeah.
So I've been. My throat is dry. I'm parched. I'm gonna take these fangs out for just a second. I'm gonna drink a little bit of water, and I'm gonna let you tell us about these movies that you saw.
Make sure that water wasn't blessed, man.
I know, I'm going to melt.
Burn from the inside. You know what? This movie, I was fortunate enough to watch 2 new release Tamil movies. And I double featured it all yesterday.
That's a long day, I bet.
Yeah. But you know what? It's worth it to go see these things and see artistic expression from another viewpoint and culture and things like that, and get to see things that you aren't accustomed to and don't have nothing but Avengers running around doing nonsense in that. So the first one I watched is Bigil. It is a movie about a gangster guy who ends up having to coach a all-female soccer team in a national championship setting, and there's conflict, and they all have to come together and try to win the soccer game. And that doesn't make it sound near as exciting as it actually is. Go watch a trailer for this. You'll be like, well, that looks sick. And it is. It's kind of like a cross between Shaolin soccer without the superpowers in the soccer game. Like, they're just normal people playing soccer. The Ladybugs, that movie that has old Pele and Sylvester Stallone in it. You know what I'm talking about?
Which one?
The movie where they're like World War II POWs and they're forced to play soccer by the Germans, and they like escape in the crowd at the end, but Pele hits like the Pele kick and makes the goal, and everyone's like, oh, it's a good movie, and I can't remember what the name of it is.
I'm a big soccer guy.
But it's kind of...
Unless it's Shaolin soccer.
Well, that's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah,
it's like Shaolin soccer and Ladybugs with like gangster movie elements all like fused in together with your like Indian cinema dance numbers and things like that, that work as exposition to move it along, but as like fun breaks from what otherwise would be long storytelling methods. But through this, you get a journey of multiple characters, and you get to see slices of life from this culture in a modern setting, which is always fun to see how other people live and values and things like that they have. So you have like a like father, like son type story where this father's hoping to make his son's life better by him not ending up like him. But the only thing that the son wants to do is be like his dad, and he can't fight that. So his dad has big dreams for him. but he can't escape his past and upbringing, you know? And then it moves into the future where that same character is put into a situation because of that life that he's involved in, being a rowdy. They call it like a gangster in this small area who's constantly under attack by the rival gangs. The coach of this women's football team or soccer team that he's friends with from when they played soccer together is attacked, and he has to take the helm and coach the team to victory against old rivals and things like that. And through that, you get to see kind of like this story of not just women empowerment, but underprivileged people being given a chance, and through different walks of life. And so you have like one character who is married and her family is very traditional, and they think that she should be in the home, raise children, cook only, and not play soccer, and kind of like the struggle she has trying to become her own person. And then something that's actually a problem in modern South Asia. One of the soccer players is attacked by a man who she turns down with acid and has her face burned, and she has to go on this journey of being comfortable in her own skin and willing to play in front of an audience. And you get a lot of little stories like this out of all of these characters, but at the same time you have like this fun action movie going on in the background that moves it along and kind of supports that story too. And it's just such a wide array of different stories that all intermingle but all tie in and work together, that you feel like it's really a walk in the life of all of these characters. And if you're not watching these Tamil like Indian cinema movies, you're missing out, because it has everything. I mean, I don't know, what did I
mean,
not...
you say this, it seems like you're watching one every week.
Yeah, dude, there's been a lot out lately, and I'm very happy about it. And I mean, if you're not watching these, what do you want? It has everything. There's nothing that's not there. Just the other week, I watched like a spy thriller that was like Mission Impossible with like face-off type stuff going on. Before that, there was the one that was like the same thing, but with nothing but like a criminal underworld where it's like who's who, and like it was total mystery. There's period dramas. There was the one Saida Narasimha Reddy, which was about real life revolutionaries that fought for Indian freedom, with a really heart-touching ending that showed all of the leaders of Indian revolution that brought them freedom from British rule. I mean, they're so good, and they have everything, and they're just so much fun to go watch. And if you don't watch foreign films, and if you're not, I haven't watched, so I haven't watched 2.0 yet.
Sam in the comments asked if the group had watched 2.0.
I mean to all the time. And actually, there's a new movie coming out that has Rajnikanth in it, Darbar. It looks really good. I want to see that. But so in short, Bigil was... It was touching, it was moving, it was empowering, and it was fun. It had everything that a movie's supposed to have in it. You got to see good guys whoop up on the bad guys. You got to see a team of underprivileged women compete at a national level and find themselves and express themselves in the process in a setting that's not always welcome. And you got to see a human story, and it's good. It's so good. Go watch these movies.
All right. There they are.
Where you want to do yours, or you want me to
keep going. Go for it.
All right.
I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
Here we go. I also saw Kaithi. It does not have quite as much of the variety of all of the others, but instead is a straightforward action movie. No song and dance sequences.
Just guns and ammo.
Yeah, guns, ammo, criminals. It's kind of like Con Air or The Rock mixed with the Raid and
I still wanna get one of those like belts full of the green globes from The Rock. I still want to get one of those.
the ones where it's like don't drop them.
Yeah, and then everyone dies on the planet.
But it's kind of like that, like The Rock mixed with the Raid and Escape from New York type situation, because there's a precinct of police and they've caught these guys, and there's like this drug ring, and they know 2 of the 3 brothers that run the drug ring, but one of them's a mystery and they don't know what he is, and they have to take him down. But all these guys are working against the cops who took the evidence, all of their drugs, their weapons, their Gatling guns, and they locked them up in a secret place. And so now the gangsters are trying to come back and get the cops, but there's a mole in the gang of drug dealers, but there's also a mole in the cops, and the mole in the cops drugs all of them. They all get roofied and they're knocked out. So the mole in the gang gives the cops a heads up, and the only person the one sober cop, because they all drank and they got knocked out, the one guy, the only person he can turn to is a criminal that's like handcuffed in this Jeep, freshly released from prison.
So they have to become
He's the
friends.
Kaithi. Kaithi is prisoner, right? And so that's why it's kind of like those other movies where the only guy that can help the good guys is another bad guy. Is he a bad guy? You don't know, but you learn through the movie.
He's less of a bad guy.
Yeah, you get his background story.
The enemy of my enemy is my
he's
friend.
just a guy trying to reach his daughter, like meet his daughter. Very like Con Air. You know what I'm saying? A good guy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now he just wants to meet his family. It's not bad. I mean, it's an action movie. It's pretty middle of the road, and I wish that there was more to it. And in truth, it's kind of hard to give the review because I was in a theater jam-packed full of people. And if you've ever seen The Last Dragon...
Have I ever seen The Last Dragon?
You know when they're
This is a drive-in speaker box, sir.
You know when they're at the movie theater
Mm-hmm.
and they're screening Bruce Lee films, and Bruce Leroy's just sitting there trying to watch Bruce Lee, and he's so excited, eating his popcorn, happy as can be. His eyes are smiling up at the screen, and then here comes Shogun Show Nuff walking through the aisles of all of the rowdiest, stereotypical Harlemites watching a movie that you can think of. They're yelling at the movie, they're throwing all their popcorn, they're talking trash to each other, people are up and dancing, causing problems. Shogun Show Nuff shows up, and everyone's just ruining the movie for Bruce Leroy.
That seems to happen to us sometimes.
That was my experience at Kaithi. It was me in a theater full of people who were on their phones, using their flashlights, playing video games with the noise on, screaming children in a movie that was nothing but blood and people being stabbed everywhere.
Who are these people?
People that would whistle as loud as possible anytime the main character came on screen. And
that's not nice.
So I don't know if there's a part of something that I'm missing, like a culture that maybe I'm willing to admit I don't fully understand.
Their movie habits?
Yeah. But there should be some decorum at the theater, y'all. Like,
it's the theater.
Let people watch a movie. You're in the theater. You're in the theater setting. Don't be on your phone. Don't play a video game sitting right behind me while your child screams at the screen. And
take it outside and put a pillow on its face or something. I don't know.
4-year-olds, 3-year-olds to a bloody
blood and guts
gore
movie.
Gangster murder movie.
They turn out like this.
Yeah, I mean, my parents said they took me to things like Terminator and RoboCop and stuff, but they said I was quiet, I was entertained, and that's how you get.
Yeah, and when
Speakerbox.
When you start crying, you leave.
And to that same point though, there was a lot of jokes in the movie that there was like a running gag that everyone laughed at so hard. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and I don't understand. So I'm willing to admit there's a lot of things I don't get about that, but I think decorum in the movie theater
is important.
I really toned down how pissed I was going to be about this whole thing, thinking about it going into it, but just behave at the movie theater. But as far as the movie goes, very middle of the road action movie. it's like a fun thing to have on the TV just to kind of watch and have something to do. But it's definitely not like one of those movies where you can be like, oh man, did you see this? It's crazy. It did have one super cool scene in it, but
Just one.
yeah.
All right.
So-
Well, if you live in Northwest Arkansas, you can check it out. Maybe, I don't know. There's a lot
Don't
of
go to the middle of the day on a Sunday showing.
a lot of movies are coming out this weekend though, so it may not be there. But we do
It just got released this weekend. Both of these were brand new movies.
we do get a lot of Hindi and Tamil and
Telugu
Yeah, we get a lot of those here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, Bigil, very good. Kaithi, it's fun, but
There you go.
if you want an action movie,
Well, all right. Well, speaking of action movies, the movie I saw this week, which is playing nationwide, was called Black and Blue, from director Dion Taylor, starring Naomi Harris, Mike Coulter, Frank Grillo, and of course Tyrese Gibson. Tyrese really stealing the show. Not normally a huge Tyrese. I like 90s Tyrese, but then the Fast and the Furious Tyrese, it's Fast and the Furious, so, I can take a back seat. But Black and Blue,
Unreal.
this is a film about, it is a kind of a crime drama thriller about a rookie, quote-unquote, New Orleans police officer. She's kind of returned home. She's 3 weeks on the job. She returned back to New Orleans after being stationed. She was in the Army for 10 years, went and did a couple of tours in Afghanistan, but then she's kind of having to force herself to balance her identity as a woman of color in New Orleans and being a cop, and then she witnesses two corrupt cops committing murder. And there she stumbles on, and she's got a body cam. So not only does she just see it, but she has physical evidence of it. And, at first glance, you think that this movie is going to be one of those things that's like, not to quote NWA, but F the police sort of movie, because there's a lot of that sentiment going around right now, where it's kind of us versus them in the media and just on the streets. There's police are just it's weird out there, man. It's crazy. But this movie does an interesting job of balancing that line and giving a duality of sort of what officers are, they're not all bad. There's obviously some that are out there that are trying to do, and this character, played by Naomi Harris, it's a really interesting look at somebody who's kind of really trying hard to do what she feels is right. She wants to be a part of the community, give back to the community, to serve and protect, and she has a military experience to back it up, but she's coming back, and there's a really good line in this whole movie, and it is from this line forward that the movie stopped being about, cops are bad, or, criminals are bad, or she said that after a while, being, in war zones, she stopped looking at things as us and them, or the enemy and the people that you're on, and it's just all people with problems. And that set the whole tone of the movie of, there are people the characters that are bad guys, some change their perspective and see things from a different perspective, and then there are characters that are supposed to be good guys that were also bad because humans are awful, that see things from a different light. And there's a lot of perspective change in an area post-Katrina where a lot of stuff is still really in shambles, and you see Naomi Harris fleeing from these officers which tried to kill her, and this community not wanting to help because it's like, you're a cop, get out of here, we don't like you. But she's like, no, I'm one of you. And they're like, no, you're not, you're a cop, you betrayed us. And she's like, but no, I'm trying to help. And then she can't go to the cops, she can't go to the people, and so it becomes incredibly tense. And so through the whole movie, you're just kind of stressed out, like, what's going to happen? And she runs into an old high school friend, Tyrese, and who also didn't want to have anything to do with it, but he kind of eventually starts to see something inside this character that's like, look, it's not about us and them, it's about doing what's right. And it actually ended up pretty good, and you get kind of sucked into this, like, is she going to be able to escape? Is she going to be able to get this footage to where it needs to be to get these people that, crooked cops that have all the cards in their back pocket to justice? But then as an audience member, you also see drug dealers that are just trying to get by. You see them in a different light. So it starts to peel back all of these layers of why people are bad and going, well, here's maybe why they're bad. And it's not necessarily because they're doing bad things. It's because sometimes life just guides you in a direction that maybe not be the best option, but it's where it goes.
Is it kind of like Dread plus Assault on Precinct 13?
A little bit. I mean, there's elements there because, of the derelict areas of New Orleans, and the condemned buildings that still have inhabitants, and the sort of like no man's zone where police don't even go, which those places are real. People think like, that's fake. But no, there are places in the United States. They used to have one in Little Rock, actually, right here in Arkansas, where the cops were like, well, if it happens in there, then whatever. We're really not going to mess with that. And they were trying, a lot of the gang violence in the 90s, like Little Rock was one of the gang violence capitals of the United States. And they sort of managed to get all of that gang violence contained into this one area of Little Rock. And they're like, well, whatever happens there, which that was a tactic to get all the gangs to kind of go there, because they're like, well, we can do whatever we want in here. So it's almost like Escape from New York style. It's like, well, if we put them in there, it'll regulate itself. And then, it was a weird balancing act. And
did they have Ernest Borgnine driving taxis?
No, they didn't, unfortunately. Boom, 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 boom. That's such a good theme song.
Oh, yeah. Did they just have speakers everywhere
the Duke of
blasting
New
John
York.
Carpenter music?
The music actually in this movie was really good and very Carpenter-esque. Like,
didn't he do Assault on Precinct 13?
He did, yeah. That was a Carpenter film. As Vince said, he's from Chicago. He said there's a place in Chicago where they stop delivering mail. And a lot of people that live in the suburbs or live in, the Midwest or wherever, in their house with their whatever, Amazon Prime. And it's real easy to disconnect yourself from the reality of some of these people that, like just the concept of food deserts is something that, I'm very passionate about and educating people on. It's not necessarily a crime, but people just have a hard time fathoming that being in the United States, life can be so drastically different and kind of awful. They're like, it's not that bad. It's their choice. Get off their ass and maybe get a job. And it's like, no, that's not that easy. It's easy for you, but that's where, a lot of problems that are happening in society with the concept of privilege start to stem from, is lack of perspective of what other people have and what other people don't have. But anyway, this movie kind of dances around a little bit of those really heavy topics, but ties it in to a pretty awesome, like, cat and mouse thriller. And by the end of it, you're pretty invested. And I don't think this is going to get a lot of traction because it's up against a whole lot of other movies that are coming out, a lot of blockbusters that are coming out. It debuted this week in a not great position, even though it did open up in over 2,000 theaters nationwide. Didn't pull in a whole lot. Did better than Gemini Man, though. Yeesh. Which is set to lose $75 million, by the way. I've been trying to get in the theater and see it. But it's just one of those people dramas that I talked about earlier in the movie, or early in the show, that it's getting harder and harder to find those movies that are people stories. Not a lot of action, not a lot of gunshots, not a lot of explosions, not a lot of whatever. It's just a very tense situation with a character that you end up caring a lot about and wanting to see it to the end. My biggest complaint, a little bit long, and there was this ending, almost an epilogue, which was totally unnecessary. There's a moment in the film where it should have just faded to black, and you're like, okay, well, resolution. But instead, it fades to white. something that you rarely see in film, kind of like George Lucas's iris fades and wipes. You don't see that in movies.
Because it's uncomfortable for your eyeballs.
And it's weird. But then they fade to white, which usually only happens when a character dies. But it fades to white and then goes and everything's like happy. And it's like, a couple of weeks later and you see this stuff and it's like, in the news, everything is resolved and the bad guy goes to jail. And you're just like,
the whole town's painted and everyone's like working gardens together.
Yeah, and they're like planting vegetables and kids are like, turning rotten tires into like gardens. You've seen it.
Yeah, they bury their guns as like a
fertilizer
for the for the garden, and it sprouts immediately, and they're like, oh.
And it was kind of that stupid. And I was like, whoa, why did you add this extra minute and a half of trash that didn't need to be there?
One of the drug dealers starts singing the Candyman can from Willy Wonka, and like the cops kind of leer at him, but he has like an actual candy store, and he's wearing like the candy striper suit, and he's like actually handing out lollipops to kids and like just dancing like an idiot.
Because everything he makes is satisfying and delicious. It's not cocaine or needles, There's another casting decision that I was a little weirded out by, but I'm trying to remember his name in the movie. It's Mike Coulter. Mike Coulter. He played Darius in the film. And Mike Coulter, not quite a household name yet, but he was Luke Cage. If you've seen the Marvel show Luke Cage, he was Luke Cage, who plays a great hero, but he was a bad guy. He was a drug dealer, and it just wasn't a very believable performance from Mike Coulter. I think Mike Coulter has a hard time being anything but a good guy. He can be an intimidating good guy. He can get a good guy angry, look like, oh, he's going to get some justice. But he didn't make a believable drug dealer with a big gold grill and all of this kind of stuff. There was a couple moments like that. It was kind of like, ugh. But Frank Grillo always plays a guy you want to kick in the nuts. Like, you see him on screen, you're just like, fuck that guy.
You know what? It's funny that you're saying that. Marvel Cinematic Universe good guys being cast in other movies. You see that 21 Bridges movie with old...
Chadwick...
Chadwick Boseman in it. How many people you think are going to watch that and expect him to be Wakandan?
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, what? American accent? Who is this guy? Where's the claws? You think just his career is gonna just not be good anytime he's him?
Well, that's what
instead
happened
of being a fake African, instead he's gonna have like American accent and be like a dude from where's he? He's from like South Carolina or something.
I can't remember, but that's what happened to Harry Potter.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe can do anything, man. He's amazing.
But for
he's
a while,
in the Duplo movie, bro.
But for a while, he couldn't, and people wouldn't take him seriously.
Then he got naked on stage and had his penis hanging out around horses.
In a white horse, yeah. And people were like, okay, that's not the wand that we were used to seeing, but there we go. That's a different Expecto Patronus. We were expecting something a little different. But anyway, yeah, it's weird when people get typecast to a point and then want to break out of that type and show their range a little bit. But Daniel Radcliffe has really grown a lot as an actor, and I still keep meaning to watch Horns, and I haven't seen it yet. But
I need to watch that miniseries about him being that worker in heaven that has Steve Buscemi or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's on my list as well. But anyway, Black and Blue, it's in theaters right now. Pretty good little character study, little tense thriller about trying to get justice, and everyone's a bad guy. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. So anyway.
Before we move too far away from it, since I got asked about 2.0 by old Sam, the reason I haven't watched 2.0 yet is because I haven't seen Entheron, and I need to watch Entheron before I watch 2.0. But Rajnikanth is like one of the coolest, so I do have both of those on the list. And I think if Tony Todd is in 2.0,
Tony Todd's in anything.
I mean, if my boy Kern, son of Moog,
Candyman,
is gonna be in that.
Speaking of the Candyman.
That's true, yeah, he was. He had all the bees in his mouth. Got paid extra money to have real bees in his mouth. Got stung 20 times and made like It's like $1,500 or like $1,000 every time he was stung.
Yeah, dude. If you've never seen Candyman, Halloween here, check it out. That is a classic. He is a horror icon, Tony Todd.
I've met Tony Todd. He's crazy tall, and he's the nicest guy. He's super cool. I took a photo with my friend who asked him outside of his booth, didn't charge him, let us talk to him about being the Candyman and Kern, because my buddy was super into horror movies. I like Star Trek.
You're super into Klingons.
Klingons are the coolest, and Kern is one of the coolest ones, with one of the saddest story arcs ever, but super good. So, and Vince thinks watching Indian cinema with me must be a blast. Sometimes it is, especially if no one else is in the theater, because I will do like the dances and stuff like they do. It's actually a lot of fun.
To see that.
And you're welcome. No expenses paid trip to come watch one with us. I will, however, purchase a movie ticket for you, Vince, if you want to come.
Yeah,
watch
if you
an
come all the way
Indian
from
cinema
Chicago to come
movie with me.
Come down and visit, and you'll. I like the no expenses paid trip. There it is, right there. We'll give one of those away here on the Driving Speakerbox anytime. But it is that time of the show we need to give you the box office roundup. Box Office Mojo, now purchased by IMDb Pro. We get a lot of our information from the Box Office Roundup from Box Office Mojo. I have an IMDb Pro account now. I wonder if I can get even more data, because I pay the $200-something a year for that crap. Because here's the thing.
Because you're listed on it.
Yes, to manage your own listing, your own IMDb profile. Like if you get credited in a movie for a role or a crew position, you have to pay IMDb to have that listing, to be able to update that listing. So, for example, I was on a movie once, and they got my position wrong. They called me a sound recordist. I was a boom operator, not a sound recordist. And I was like, yo, get my credit right. And I wanted to go change that credit, but I couldn't unless I got IMDb Pro. And there you go. It's such a racket, man. But anyway.
So that means they won't even put your name in the movie if you don't?
No, they will. I mean, it's on the end credits. Like if you were to get the DVD, you'd see it. But if you went to IMDb, it would be there, but it would be the incorrect. Or, for example, I did a lot of network television and a couple of different shows, and sometimes they don't always list whatever episodes that you work on, and they'll say that you're a part of the season, but if you want to go in and do list all the different episodes that you worked on, then you have to kind of go yourself and put that in. Because I mean, a lot of the production company, they just say, okay, season 1, blah blah blah. Here's the crew list, yada yada yada. But sometimes you work on, a couple episodes in season 2, and you don't work on any in season 3. But then you come back on season 4, and it gets complicated. Anyway, I won't bore you with all that stuff. But anyway, let's talk about the box office roundup. It's the top 10 movies in America from the weekend of October 25th through 27th, 2019. We start with number 10. We work our way to number 1. And this is all domestic numbers, meaning it's here in the USA, what we got here in the States. So number 10, Abominable from Universal Pictures, bringing in $2 million at the box office. In its 5th weekend release, bringing it up to $56 million.
It's already been out for 5 weeks?
Man, I don't like this list because it doesn't tell me the budget. Man, I'm going to have to do even more work. Dang, that sucks. I like having the budget information there. Number 9, The Current War, the director's cut from 101 Studios, bringing in $2.6 million at the box office in its first weekend, and kind of limited release. It's only in about 1,000 theaters nationwide, bringing in $2.6 million this weekend at the box office.
The director's cut released when you never got to see the regular cut.
Correct. Number 8, The Lighthouse from A24, one of my favorite current news studios or distribution companies. $3 million at the box office, only in 580 theaters nationwide. Second weekend release has brought it up to $3.6 million. It's getting a lot of good reviews. I mean, that is, I'd say The Lighthouse, if you're looking at average revenue per screen, it beat the number 1 movie in America. So that kind of puts that into perspective. But anyway, it brought in 3.6. Number 7, Gemini Man from Paramount, dropping from the number 5 position down to the number 7 from last week, bringing in $4 million this weekend in its third weekend release, only coming up to $43 million. I believe, if memory serves, it had about $138 million
It's up there.
budget, and that ain't good. So it is set to lose a lot of money. Number 6, opening at the number 6 spot, I just reviewed it, Black and Blue from Screen Gems, bring in $8.3 million in its opening week. Not a great opening, but of course this wasn't a very high budget movie. If I were a guessing man, I would say it was under 20, just because of the location. New Orleans is relatively inexpensive to shoot in, especially since a lot of the film studios packed up and moved to Atlanta. I think New Orleans is kind of hungry for more productions, and it didn't have any big A-list names in there.
Tyrese.
I mean, yeah, but I don't think Tyrese is asking for $20 million a movie. He's just like, hey man, I'm bored until the next Fast and Furious, and if you could just get Dwayne Johnson to shut up for a minute. And
Yeah, well, now they have Cardi B, and she never shuts up.
ugh.
Nobody's happy. Hey, so quick note on Fast and Furious, they announced that Cardi B was going to be in the movie, and every single person in every car group, every car enthusiast group, every fan of car anything.
Well, car's in her name. We should put her in the movie.
Yeah, all of us hated that. Everybody. There's not a single positive comment or note from anyone in any car
They're
related.
trying to open it up to a new audience and get more money.
They had Iggy Azalea show up for 2 seconds in one of the movies, but it wasn't like announced, and no one cared, and everyone was like, "Oh, get her out of here!" And then she was gone, and it was fine. So maybe it'll be like that.
Money. Number 5, Zombieland Double Tap, which we reviewed, I believe, last week on the show. You can check out that episode wherever you get your podcasts, or on our Facebook or YouTube Live if you want to watch the video. From Sony, bringing $8.7 million in its second weekend release, bringing it up to $44 million. To be honest, I thought that this movie would stay a little higher. I thought it would be maybe stay number 3, but at least 4. Dropping to 5 was kind of a surprise for me, because I did not expect Countdown to take the number 4 spot, which it did, from STX, bringing in $8.8 million. That's only about $100,000 more than Zombieland, but that movie looked dumb as hell.
But it's the only like actual horror movie that's in the theater right now.
That is true. It is the only traditional formula horror, people dying because of something spooky's happening.
Zombieland's a comedy.
Yeah.
And comedies lately, in recent history, have not
Been performing.
had big heavyweight punching power behind them like they used to. You don't get the same results out of comedies.
That's
like you used to.
weird. But anyway, it brought in $8.8 million at the box office. Coming in number 3 with $12 million at the box office is The Addams Family from United Artists Release. $12 million in its third week. Still hanging in there, but I figured it would through October. I feel like we're going to see a big drop-off. It held pretty good with only about a 26% drop from last week's numbers, but doing pretty well for itself. It's already been greenlit for a sequel, and $73 million at the box office for The Addams Family. And if you want to check out our review there, go back 2 episodes. We reviewed it as well. Number 2, The Joker. You can check out our review of that if you go back 4 episodes. From Warner Brothers, bringing in another whopping $19.2 million. Just kicking ass, making all the money, bringing in so far $277 million domestically at the box office in its 4th weekend release, holding in the number 2 spot, dropping down from the number 1 spot for the first time, bringing in a worldwide gross, this is counting the foreign market, $852 million, getting real close to the $1 billion club, and it had a tiny little budget. It was under $100 million easy, but it.
Oh, the budget on it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was only like 40, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was small, and it just crushed it. So pretty interesting to see there. And the number 1 movie in America from Disney, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, bringing in $19.3 million, only beating Joker by just shy of 100,000, about 92,000 and some change in its second weekend release. They're bringing in a total domestic gross of $66.2 million. Right there, dang. So holding it down for the number one spot. Walt Disney, of course. There you go. That is your box office roundup, and that is your show. I wanted to talk about the Disney Fox Vault this week, but I'm going to have to save that conversation for another week. Disney kind of quietly putting a lot of the classic Fox movies that we know and love into its vault, so meaning that we're not going to be able to see them, or we're going to have to see them behind a paywall or something like Disney Plus. We're talking Die Hard. We're talking Raising Arizona. We're talking The Fly. We're talking The Omen. We're talking Beneath the Planet of the Apes. We're talking Suspiria. We're talking like all of this stuff.
Whoa! Die Hard?
It's Fox.
You mean I'm not gonna have access to Die Hard on Christmas?
Yeah, pretty much anything that has a bum 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 bum. Disney's got you by the balls on Christmas, and you're screwed, man. Like that's. So we'll talk more about that on next week's episode after we also talk to you about Terminator, Dark Fate, and we find out the dark fate of Arnold Schwarzenegger and
or why they chopped John Connor out of the movie.
Ooh, all will be revealed next week on the Drive-In Speakerbox. I'm the Boom Operator.
I'm the Grip.
Happy Halloween. Stay safe. Make good decisions. Drive-In Speakerbox Tavern Trivia returns this Wednesday at Smoke and Barrel. Find it online.